The genderbread person is a diagram to help us understand gender, sexuality, and the parts that make up both. This model depicts the complexity of how these concepts show up in our society. We will start by filling in the blanks to understand the four components that make up someone's identity. The first line is identity. Gender identity is who we, in our heads, know ourselves to be, based on what we understand to be the options for gender and how much we align or don't align with one of those options. Gender identity is our psychological sense of gender. Next, we have attraction. This is the different ways that we feel pulled to other people, often categorized based on our gender and the gender of those we're attracted to. This category is most often referred to as sexual orientation. Next, we have anatomical sex, referring to the physical makeup of our bodies, and specifically the body parts we've named as sex characteristics. These are the primary traits that we're born with, and the secondary ones that we might develop later in life. Finally, we have expression. Gender expression is all the ways that we present ourselves through our actions, our clothing, and our demeanor, and the gendered ways those presentations are socially interpreted. Now let's look at these more specifically. Here you will see some scales and blank spaces. These are not just fancy arrows. You can think of them as one-way scales depicting how much the different components may show up for you. For some people, it's helpful to imagine a 0% on the left and a 100% on the right of each scale. With gender identity, people often think of the social roles, gender norms, and personality traits and the expectations we have in those things. In the top blank, we have womanness, and in the bottom, we have manness. Someone may identify as higher on the scale of one or the other, the same amount for both, or not at all, often referred to as non-binary. This gender identity may change over time or may be more fluid. With gender expression, people often think of hairstyles, grooming, makeup, clothing, nonverbal mannerisms, and the other things that we see from the outside. Femininity and masculinity are the terms we use here, and you may identify more with one or the other, or equally. For some, this also may change and flow. With anatomical sex, the first thing people think of are the reproductive organs and body parts, but lots of things can make this up, including body hair, hip to shoulder ratio, chromosomes, pitch of voice, and more. We use femaleness and maleness because here we are depicting this varying degrees someone might embody these traits as opposed to the sex they're assigned at birth. People experience attractions, or don't, in a lot of different ways. Two common ways that we describe attraction in it is as sexual and romantic. Some people experience both, some only one, and some neither. And within those experiences of attractions, we often focus on the gender of the others that we are attracted to. You might want to take a moment to consider where you land on these scales. How much womanness do you identify with? How much manness? Maybe neither. You may identify as a dot on each continuum, several dots to indicate a range, or you may feel like you're not on the scale at all. We've often been socialized to oversimplify all of this. However, many of us exist in different degrees on the scales and may zigzag throughout them in ways that break assumptions and norms. To highlight this, remember that identity does not equal expression, does not equal sex, and gender does not equal sexual orientation.